of the Water. Let's get into this. But firstly, I want to tell you guys, if you have not seen this movie, you should definitely go see it. Don't listen to anybody else's review until you go and see it for yourself. First and foremost, if you haven't seen the first movie, this is the sequel. You will have to watch the first movie for it to make sense, for you to get the rest of the story. So because at the time of this video, this was in theaters and I literally had just gone opening night where I am to go and see it, there's not going to be any like actual footage from the movie because I don't want to get copyright strikes, you know, but I'll be using stuff from the trailer, like specifically from their official trailer. This movie was amazing. I started by saying it was like better than the first movie, but that's not fair because I feel like each of these movies stand alone in their own class. I did not expect it to be as good as it was. Let me tell you that, to be honest. I did not expect it to be anywhere near what I initially thought it was going to be. And even what I thought it was going to be early on when I saw the trailers, I was like, you know what? I'm good with this. It's basically the same story. And there are elements of it that make it the same story as before. But I think this is so much more wholesome than even the first movie because it just amped up the notch with the main character. It continues on the story of Jake Sully. He gets the girl, they have a family, and everything is beautiful. And they just put you right into the world. It's all about Pandora. They put you right into the world immediately. So you're not wondering, okay, when's the action gonna happen? When are we gonna see something great? Because let's be honest, the real reason why we are watching this movie is not for its implicit story. It's not for the exceptional characters, but it's for the pulchritude and the aesthetics of the world. Avatar 2 felt more like an emotional visual experience than a film, and it was such a remarkable experience that I became as immersed in it as I was in the original first movie. The exception was that, appropriately so, this film concentrated more on the Na'vi while also managing to retain the essential human element of the characters. So there were, in fact, humans, but most of the show kind of focused more on nature and the interaction that you, through the characters, would experience in this world, in this new world. We got to see more of Pandora from the tree people, the jungles of Pandora, and we got to see the characters and each of their different personalities and how they interpreted the world through how they had fun and how they bonded as a family. We got to see Jake actually as a character who has grown exponentially as not just a Marine, but someone who has now become the chief of this clan and now has a family that he's completely responsible for. We get to see that even though he is still the main character of the story, he now is a father and he's not perfect. There are things that he's trying to figure out on the way as well. He's doing the best he can to protect his family. What I also appreciate in this movie, and I have to say it because I know a lot of people probably get annoyed at me, but I have noticed that a lot of the modern day films and stuff seem to have something against strong men, while I think it is beautiful that strong women also be propped up. They usually do it in such a way that makes us as women look bad, like we have to put down the men in order for us to be strong. And I don't know what anybody else calls that, but when you have to make somebody else look bad for you to look strong, that's called bullying. I don't know. Maybe I'm stupid. Yeah, maybe I have internalized misogyny, as some of you probably say. Sure, why not? If that's the case, I'm glad that I have it then, because I feel like a female is strong in her own element. She should not be required to put somebody else down or make them look like doofuses for her to be strong. Jake didn't have to do that, and Neytiri is still a strong wife. She loves her husband. I love the dialogue that they have with each other because she allows Jake to be a father and he allows her to be a mother. She doesn't override him and try to make him look bad, and he doesn't try to override her and make her look bad. When she says, hey Jake, you know, we have to do this. This is a problem. People are depending on us. And Jake cuts back at her, not fighting, but in a very respectful manner, as she does with him. You can hear both sides of the argument, and they're only arguing because they're trying to keep their family safe. And both of them make great points while still doing it in a lovingly, respectful manner, each of them being their own characters and having strength within who they are as people individually. James Cameron does this amazingly. I'm so impressed with him. Like, I didn't even think this would be a thing, because that's what they used to do with movies, right? But then you do have those movies that try to make the women look stupid, and then you put it all the way on the other end of the scale where they try to make the men look stupid. I don't think that's right. Each of them have their own thing, and even with their children. And the other clan, the Metkaina, the wife, is a firecracker, but her husband is also strong. He's commanding, he's imposing. He does leave his wife a little bit more because she's pregnant. Like, she's like a firecracker. He's like, Jesus Christ, this woman. And even though she is very pugnacious, she still looks to her husband. She doesn't say override him as a chief and is all like, well, this is what I want to happen. She makes her voice be heard, but she doesn't do it in a way to disrespect her husband, who, if she has a problem with something, she directs it at the problem, or she'll talk to her husband about it. But when they're to make a decision, he looks at her and she looks at him and she says, okay, fine. Or, you know, she'll wait for his approval and he'll wait for her approval. I just love that dynamic of their mates being so in tune with each other. It's beautiful. It's so refreshing to see. You don't even realize. It feels refreshing because you don't often see it anymore. And that's a problem. Like, when you realize something stands out, that's when you completely recognize that it's missing. And even in my own family and upbringing, my mother, like, especially having become westernized when she moved from our country, she did take on those elements, and her mother was like that too. So I think a little bit of that bled in. And my father is a great man, but my mother wore the pants of the family. There wasn't that dynamic. Even when he tried to step in and be like, you know, hon, you're being a little too harsh with the kids, you need to ease up a little bit, she would punish him for it. Like, and I don't know what it is with this Western society where that is the norm, but it was very refreshing seeing that. That's one of the favorite things I loved about this. And nobody had to put each other down to make the other look better. I love that. They kind of actually bolstered each other, made each other better. Jake made Neytiri better. Neytiri made Jake better. They helped each other. She had his back. She was his woman. Oh my god, this movie was amazing. So I will say that for the characters. As for character growth, each of the characters had their thing. They have kids, and the youngest kid is her own character. She's so sweet. She's experiencing the world in a way that's just complete innocence. Like, everything is just new to her. She has no experience whatsoever, so we get a little bit of that with her. And with the Jake-like character, the second son, or the second oldest, he is more like Jake. And funny enough, he kind of reminds me of the relationship that my cousin, the oldest in his family, has with his father. You know, the father is this amazing man that's like, my uncle is a badass. Like, I love my uncle. Funny enough, you know how they say girls marry their fathers, you know, men like their fathers? For me, my husband is much like basically the same personality as my uncle. The exact same personality, everything almost exactly the same. They're both INTJs, they both love computers. Like, it's crazy. Do everything with their hands. Like, that's the kind of person that you look up to, a man that is masculine and can handle his shit. You know, so it's really funny, but these men who are very great, they have this air about them where everything needs to be in order for it to work, and they do this to keep their family safe. The downside of that is they tend to be very strict, and their oldest sons, or the sons that are most like them, are the ones they are hardest on. Because funny enough, I don't know what it is with INTJ kids or guys, when they're young, they're really ornery. It's like the smartest people, and they act like dumbasses when they're little. They grow up, and I think seeing that in their child, seeing that obstinance, they try to be harder on that child than the others, because it's like, that's what I was like. I remember I was like that and all the mistakes I made, so I'm harder on my child to prevent them from making those same mistakes. The downside of that is the child ends up feeling like utter disappointment. They can't do anything right, and it's like, you basically alienate that child from the family. And Jake ends up kind of doing that with his second son. The bigger brother, who actually takes more after Neytiri, you can also see the genetic features in their faces for who they take after, which I thought was really cool. He is treated better in a way because there's no reason for them to really be on him because he does everything he's supposed to do. He's the oldest, but yes, he does get scolded too because he's supposed to be watching the younger ones. But then Jake is really hard on Loak. I think that's his name, Loak. Luke Loak. Yeah. Neytiri is basically the older brother, the oldest brother. Loak is the second one that looks like Jake. And you can see he is a lot like his father, but we're seeing a younger version of Jake go through what Jake probably went through when he was growing up. You get to see him as the main character, but they're all main characters. You're seeing the girl, the teenage girl who's the adoptive daughter of Jake and Neytiri, who's basically Sigourney Weaver. It's her voicing her. It's like Grace's clone or something, which there is also a mystery with that. I like how they did that. But you see her dealing with something in the movie that's different from all the rest. She's feeling lonely. You're dealing with Loak, Jake's second son, who looks like him, trying to fit in and live up to his dad. I do love that the kids are also respectful to their parents. Like, that is something that's also very rare. Like, seeing the kids be respectful. Like, Jake is a Marine. So, from what I know about Marines and other soldiers, when they have families, they discipline their kids. Like, it is very rare. Like, I don't even think I've ever met anybody who is my age that had parents, they disrespected their parents. Like, that just was not a thing. That was not a thing. You have a Marine or you have a soldier as a parent, they keep everybody in line. It's just, they're really good with that. And it makes sense because their whole thing is discipline first. So it makes sense they would run their family like that. But Neytiri also has to deal with, hey, this is our responsibility as the people to protect the people. I love her dynamic because she says, hey, you're being too hard on the kids. You know, this isn't a squadron, this is a family. And he tells her, I almost lost them today. When he's scolding the brothers after something they did, I almost lost them today. And he shows that fearful, vulnerable side to Neytiri. And when she realizes the reason why Jake is acting like that, she kind of eases up on him a little bit. She's like, oh, I understand why you're being so hard on them. But then she's also hard on the kid. And just seeing how Neytiri and Jake are both, like, laying it on Loak, like, this poor kid, his mother wants to pluck his eyes out his head. And Jake is also like, I'll deal with you later. And I swear to God, there was one instance in the movie where Jake pulls him away, and then it cuts to the night where this guy is, like, venting. And I'm thinking to myself, Jake busted his ass, didn't he? He got a whooping. Because that's when it feels like he's like, I'm gonna deal with him. And then it just cuts to much later. I'm like, yeah, I think we know how he dealt with him. James Cameron probably grew up in that era. You know, like, I mean, I don't know that because James Cameron is, like, older, but I got whooped as a kid. Me and my brothers got freaking whooped. I got the worst of it. So I understand exactly what that meant. And it was very relatable for me, especially being the oldest in my family. I have younger brothers. I'm the only girl in my family. My mom having been abused by her mother, that kind of leaked on over into me, and how she was, like, uber freaking strict to the point where it was, like, abusive, and it's like, I can never live up to what you want me to be. Like, Jake wasn't even that bad. I feel like this kid, I get where he's coming from, but he didn't have it nearly as bad as, like, I know some of us did. But it was still relatable seeing how he felt, because I did feel that way a lot of times. Like, I can't do anything right. When I do something right around the corner, she's bitching at me for something else. I'm getting my ass busted for something else. And it's like, why are you doing this? So when he goes off to be by himself, he kind of like shies away from the family. It is a great portrayal of what kids go through and how it's so easy to kind of lose your kids in the fray. You can love them so much and be so strict with them to the point where you alienate them. And it's not Jake's fault. Like, he's not doing it to be mean. He's doing it because he's like, okay, your brother's doing it. What's wrong with you? Now you're just being lazy. If he can do it, you're just being lazy. And I learned, you know, from even raising my brothers and speaking with them, that people are different. You know, not everyone's going to get something exactly the same way. There are people who are going to be better at certain things. Yes, you should obey your parents and not put your family in danger. But at the same time, the parents have to meet the kids halfway and, like, talk to them. And Jake was talking to his kid, but he scolded him more than he talked to him, if you know what I mean. So that whole dynamic was really, really cool. I really enjoyed that. It felt like a real family unit.
The way of water connects all things.
So the other part for me, and the favorite part, may I say, is the biology. Oh my god, the world of this new place, of the reef. Breathtaking. Breathtaking. I know people are making fun of it, saying it's a glorified screensaver. Maybe so, but if you're saying it's a screensaver, it's the most badass screensaver I have ever seen. I did not see this movie in 3D, and honestly, you didn't need to. I feel like the 3D would just take away from all the visual splendor of it, to be honest. There were times where they let this movie breathe, and I love how James Cameron made this movie in such a way that when they were underwater, the music sounded muted. You could still hear it, but it felt like you were underwater. I don't know how else to explain it. It was just so well done. The characters, the animals, had more personality than they did in the first movie. I think the only character that had personality in the first movie, like a real personality, was the Thanator? Wow. I don't even think. Yeah, no, I don't even. Okay, to be honest, aside from maybe the Thanator at the last moment and the Leonoptrix that barely had personalities, they were just these animals that were like, all right, I'm here. But in this movie, the animals are people, if that makes sense. They're their own characters. When they first come in, Jake and his family first come into the reef, they introduce them to these plesiosaur looking creatures that I call long-necked dolphins. I don't actually remember what they're called, but they're so sweet and they're making these dolphin cries and they're very intelligent. That's what they use as their mounts for the water. And you could see the personality in these creatures' eyes. These little creatures have so much personality, these little guys, that they're essentially like the dogs of the family, and they're just chilling out, you know, by the reef. They probably get fed as well. They get to bond with these Navi, the Metcaina, and it's just a sweet relationship that the Metcaina have with the fauna in the area. It's beautiful. So when you see the look in their eyes, they're actually laughing. You can tell when they're having fun. You can see the tiniest one, Tuk, the little girl. She's the youngest that Jake and Neytiri have. She's very cute. She's playing with one of them and they're laughing. Like, they're having fun. Even when they start to learn how to ride them and the plesiosaur thing drops them in the water, you can tell that they're laughing and having fun. It's not just this brain dead horse-like creature that's only there as a mount. They have personalities. So when something horrible happens to one of them, I was crying. Like, I was literally crying. I was like, no! I was so hurt because it felt like someone just came in and shot my dog. Like, that's how it felt. And there are other animals that are a part of the story, one in particular. And if you guys watch the movie, knowing me, if you watch my channel long enough, you know exactly who I'm talking about. Oh my God. Oh my God. I would love to see a movie with just him. Oh God. Oh, the backstory. This felt like an anime. And I'm sorry, that is the greatest compliment I could ever give a movie. If I say it feels like an anime, that is a compliment. Because this felt like a freaking anime. And like the fight scenes, I feel like one video is not enough to really go into detail how freaking good this movie was. Oh my God, I enjoyed it so much. It is so much more than what I expected it to be. It exceeded my expectations in a way that is unbelievable. And it far more makes up for all the embarrassment that I've had as of late with certain films. James Cameron nailed it. I know a lot of people lately are upset at James Cameron because he said something about masculinity or something. It didn't really seem like it was that big of a deal. I don't really think that's what he meant. I think he was talking about something personally that he had to deal with. Maybe he was addicted to something. But if you're worried about that and you're claiming that, oh my God, James Cameron's gone woke now, whatever, I don't see any of that in this movie at all. If that's how you feel about him and you think that's what he really is, I don't watch most of what he has outside of this. I don't see it in his art at all. I don't see it in his art whatsoever. Maybe I'm biased, but he's not shitting on masculinity. He's not shitting on femininity. He equalizes it, at least in this movie and in the last movie. So if he's like that in real life, he definitely knows how to separate that from his art, because I don't see 1 ounce of that. If you guys didn't want to see the movie based on that, please go watch it. Please. I really want to see what happens in the next movie. I don't want it to get canceled. Please, because it does end on sort of cliffhanger, sort of. One that you could do without, but one that you're like, okay, I'm waiting for the next part of the freaking anime story. Please give it to me. Oh my God. The movie did not feel like 3 hours. Somebody told me the running time was 3 hours. It did not feel like that. Aside from me having to go to the bathroom like once. It did not feel like it was a 3-hour movie. I will look it up right now because, let's see, what was the running time for Avatar Way of the Water. What? 3 hours and 12 minutes? Did not feel like that, bro. Did not feel like that. That movie felt like it was 2 hours long, maybe 2 hours and 15 minutes. I cannot believe it was a 3-hour movie. It did not feel like it, and that is a great thing. Because I was so lost in it. When the action was happening, it was happening. You cared about when people, you know, the main characters, if something was going to happen to them. I already kind of had a spoiler that something was going to happen to someone based on the trailer. And oh my god, I was still dreading it happening. I was still dreading it even though I knew it was going to happen. I'm like, no. And man, I go see the movie. If you're still here, I don't know why you are. Go see the movie. Seriously, get your friends. Go see, especially if you like the first one. If you hated the first movie because of the story, okay, this does continue that story. It's not like a convoluted story. If you're looking for freaking Nolan, that type of story, then this is probably not the movie for you anyway. But if you're looking for an experience and the continuation of that story with more world building, if you're looking for an experience, go and watch Avatar: Way of the Water and then go and watch it again. If you like animals, go and watch Avatar: Way of the Water. If you like alien themes with different worlds, go and watch Way of the Water. It is sweet. There are some elements where they reuse stuff from the first movie, like almost beat for beat, but it's cute the way they do it. They're obviously paying homage, but they're kind of copying it. And I think the reason why James Cameron chose to do that is because, hey, this is basically the same thing. These creatures or these avatar, these Na'vi rather, they all have this this connection with nature. And every time somebody is new and they're just learning this, they have to go through those same steps. Not that it has to be exactly the same, but the experience is the same. And so when Jake is experiencing this, we're getting to see the kids also experiencing what he and we experience already. And so seeing somebody else after you've kind of experienced it already, experience it for themselves, it's exhilarating. It's like watching a great movie or a great anime show and you know your friend will like it and you're waiting to see how they fumble through it. And it's great. I love that. I do love that. I think in this case, it does work. It does work. It's not like it's trying to depend on the other movie to hold itself up because it's just a small part of the movie. The rest of the movie holds itself up on all its pillars. It's amazing. It's amazing. The action was amazing. I wondered like, okay, well, what are they gonna use? Arrows and stuff like they did in the first movie? No, Jake actually had his shit together. Like let me tell you something. The Ametakaya people, the jungle people from the first movie, oh, they got that covered. They got that covered. Also, the way that the plot progressed, it made a lot of sense. How they got there, I was sort of kind of right in my theory and sort of kind of wrong, but it made a lot of sense why they had to leave. I get it. You know, like, it's not, you know how a lot of movies today, they convolute things and like, oh, well, this happened for some stupid reason. And you're like, well, why couldn't they just do this? In this case, there was no way out of that. And while I agreed with Neytiri, I also agree with Jake because he cares about his family. I don't want to give too much away because I have a feeling people are going to sit here and want me to recap the entire thing and then not watch it and then it not make as much money and then we not get the other rest of the story. So I'm purposely withholding, at least right now. But please go see it, guys. Please. It is an experience. Don't drink anything before you go there because there's no freaking intermission. It's 3 hours straight through. I think there should at least be like, you know, can you give us 10 minutes so we can piss? But if you're sitting now for 3 hours, make sure you're warm. If you're really cold and you start shivering, you're gonna have to piss. Like, that just goes hand in hand. That's the only complaint that I really have. Also, my conclusion for this, last character that comes out, the villain, you know, we know who that is. They do build upon him and you can see him developing as a character. There's more depth to his character than we saw before. They introduced an element and I was right about that. Most of my theories about this movie, I was right. But I like what they did here and I can't say, god damn it. Anyway, go see the movie, guys. Go see the movie. I'm so glad that I saw it. I would go to theaters to see it again. That's how much I loved it. Thanks so much for watching. This has been Ultiori. You ask, we answer.